Miss Jara, Miss Thang.
Peace, y'all. Welcome to
This
the Fit
broadcast is
Guys
live. Let's
Takeover
go.
of Get On Code.
All right, welcome to Get On Code, the Fly Guy Show, which is a series of melanated conversations focused on empowerment, health, wealth, and knowledge of self.
People think in binary choices because they are conditioned to.
And on the wall was a picture of a wolf and a lion. I think the wolf was the Democratic Party, the lion was the Republicans.
But the drug trade and all these illegal stuff that people do, that's still economics. It's just that they couldn't do it in a traditional system.
We're talking about melanated wealth.
So we can build wealth, but we just, for some reason, don't seem to be able to transfer it.
You had a great experience. Fine. That means nothing.
What were you told as a child about education? You had to be how many times better?
Every impression without an expression becomes depression.
Peace, y'all. I'm so excited. It's week 2. We celebrating Women's History Month, and I got my girls with me. Last week we were talking about a little bit of everything from sexual health to wellness to trauma, how we heal a lot of things. So real quick, I just wanted everybody to introduce themselves before we start the conversation. Let's start with you.
Oh, go ahead. Well, my name is Malara Green. I am your favorite therapist.
I didn't hear that.
Coach. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Malara Green. I'm your favorite therapist, your confidence coach, or just a servant of God. And what I do is I go into your right now and I help you become mentally sane, because when I die, I want suicide to die with me. I do that as a therapist, a confidence coach, and a Reiki master, and so much more. And I'm just here tonight to just chat with my sisters and hopefully bring some transformation and healing to your life.
Super dope. What about you, Sam?
Welcome. First of all, I say welcome, sis. I am Sam, the artist, also known as Sam, aka Golden Flows of Funkhauser. I dance and I try to help heal people through the art of dancing and through the arts in general, doing color practitioning and moving dance practicing holistically, so that people can actually do something with their health and their bodies that will benefit them for the long run. That's what I'm here tonight, is to talk about just that and how we reconnect to our femininity through that, and knowing that's a healing tool that people can use and it's free. Like you can find it anywhere. It's like it's a beat, catch it. And that's why I'm here.
Guess it leaves me. So, hi, I'm Rosalind, your life coach. I am with Alchemic Aura. That's the name of my company. And we're a wellness, virtual wellness company that focuses on mind, body, spirit wellness. I'm a certified life coach, certified fitness instructor, and we focus on all things wellness. I'm also reflexologist and aromatherapist. I do all things natural, alternative healing, alternative remedies, and I'm excited to be up here with my daughter, the Fit Goddess, and all these beautiful queens who, oh my God, the knowledge is incredible. I just can't wait to get started. I'm so glad it's Women's Month so we can celebrate us and our domain. Yes.
That's right. That's right. You say I got on my Obama shirt representing all women and fitness all in one, right? So
Yeah.
let's get into it heavy. Well, I guess I should introduce myself. I'm the Fit Goddess, right? Founder of Fit Goddess Tribe. We are a health and wellness brand that promotes healthy lifestyle habit changes, right? And we do it through the family unit, especially the individual, the couple, and then, of course, the community. We love to curate events that bring health and wellness to everybody. So let's get the conversation started. Sam, what do you want to talk to us about today?
So, when I was approached by Jara for this, I kind of wanted to make sure I said something that was worthwhile and the hot topic of conversation, which was the meaning behind how we view femininity and from the culture that we live in, and then of course how we to reconnect that to our natural ways and the natural cultural definitions of women. As you know, when you invade or when people are invaded, they have a tendency to reestablish what it defines in the social classes to be this or that, and that bringing that forth. So for a long time, how we view ourselves is not even how we our ancestors viewed ourselves. And that's something that we probably should reclaim for the sake of sanity, because we've been brought into this situation in an unfortunate, insane kind of way. So for the concept of reclaiming our femininity from a natural place, we definitely have to go back to our ancestors and what they thought and what kind of falls into line of being the feminine divine. That's my point.
So you said bringing, redefining our femininity back to, like Sankofa, looking back to where we came from. My mom was talking last week via the chat about chakras. You were talking about alignments with chakras. How do we redefine or realign ourselves with our original vision or image? And anybody can answer.
Um, well, I will start. I know Queen Green is gonna finish it, but let me let me just say for the record, because she got me excited last week talking about the root chakras, and the point she made that I love that she brought it home was that we have to start there in our divine feminine, and that aspect of us is where our power comes from. And the root chakra is the opening of the way. They call it heaven in some cultures, um, because it's an enjoyable situation. I mean, I don't think God would have made sex so wonderful if there wasn't a real purpose behind it. So that we can have more of it, so that we can create more of it, her, him, the the creator. Um, we have to open up and become impregnated, and that doesn't just happen physically. It also happens spiritually. We are impregnated with thoughts, we're impregnated with feelings, we're impregnated with words, and then we express them. And so, as far as our divine, that is where it begins and that's where it ends. We were made in the image and likeness of God, and the image and likeness of God is the male and female principle. I think the Bible says that when He created us, He and she made He them. So we are all aspects of each other. So to reclaim that is like we didn't really lose it, but we lost ourselves in terms of um, our race. You know, our divine heritage and our ancestry and our legacies and our traditions and belief systems. So in order for us to go back, we have to go down to the root. Water the
I
root,
like
the
it.
tree will grow. I'm done.
So would
Sorry.
you say, and this again is to anybody, would you say then, with what Rosalind said, that we've lost our discipline?
Well, when you lost the discipline, you've lost the ritual. I'm sorry, excuse me, I didn't mean to jump on you, but like, so the idea, if you don't know the ritual, then how can you have the discipline to do the ritual to ascertain the power from the ritual that is like deeply embedded in you? It's like the DNA code that you already have. When I was doing my dance history, I looking back into how you were doing moves that they've never even seen. They can do something that's like a muscle memory, but instead of a muscle memory, it's an ancestral memory. So the memory you have to keep revitalizing is the one you have to remember long enough to do it. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna do this, but have no knowledge or intention of how to do it or why it's important for you to do, and even when to do it. That's also crucial. So all of those things help you get to the discipline part. If I answered your question.
I love it. What about you, Myla? I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a huge part of it is we are disconnected from our physical bodies, and
That part.
that is something that I've
Mm-hmm.
been talking about over the last couple of days, where I've done a disservice for some people because I focus so much on the mind and positive affirmations and affirming yourself and knowing your purpose, knowing your vision, but we're so disconnected from the creation in which the creator created. And when we can actually become one with our actual physical body, this temple, this vehicle, this masterpiece, I think that's how we're going to be able to reclaim our femininity. We have literally re-imaged the masterpiece creation. We talk about how we should look. We talk about what size we should be. We talk about when we should give away our prized possession and when we shouldn't. Like, there's so many rules to this thing called body, but we don't even accept this body. We try to change it so much. If I ask somebody right now how much weight you want to lose, most people have a set weight. I have yet just met somebody who just love their outer appearance. And it's that piece of, if we can get to a space where we can actually build a positive relationship with our bodies, then when we do go down and we root down, we can be connected to her, and there's not this disconnect that is there. So I feel a big part of it is, it goes like, kind of like the queen was saying, internally we have these messaging of how we move our bodies, how we build relationship with our bodies, but we live in a world that has told us the opposite of it. Like, everything else controls when we do certain things, when we move, when we, like, it's so much control. So I feel like if we can just build an intimate relationship with our physical bodies, then we can really reclaim our femininity, because then nothing outside of us is defining it, but we're able to honor what was naturally given to us and really being able to embrace that.
Yo, I
I
love
Is she back?
concur.
everything.
Concur. I concur. I concur.
So, for y'all who know me, know that through fitness, I train the brain much like Myra does, but I also use the body, right? I'm training the brain to move the body to make that brain body connection, like you're saying. So I absolutely love that you say that, because most people confuse the endorphins and the jovial feeling from working out with me as if I've done something. And I'm like, ah, baby, that was all you. Now you're seeing how your mind is so powerful, like you're saying, to if we change how we think, I will look like everything that I intend to as the God that I'm created to look like. Once I relax my mind and let go of controlling the stereotypes, the stigmas, the images, the prejudices, the biases, the fears, and all of that. So I guess then my question is, how do we assist as healers to scaffold, right? It was a big task for each of us to be able to get to this level of thought. But in this program, what, let's say, three things can we give them right now to help them get there? Um, my three things that I always give my clients, I tell them, you got to tell me three things you love about yourself every day. And it doesn't matter what it can be. I love my hair color. I love my nose. It doesn't have to be big, because that thought alone, unfortunately, draws a lot of women to tears. And I remember, because I was there too. But so my piece is three things you love about yourself every day. Whoever next, let's go.
I'll say, do feed yourself in these three areas every day. Feed your mind, feed your body, and feed your spirit.
That's blessings. That's good. That's peace. I would say move. If you have a problem, whether good or bad, dance it out. Like, actually move your body, move your hips, and enjoy moving your hips like the trees. Don't let trees, or don't let society tell you what to do with your body. Just like move, and it's okay. Whatever happens, keep moving. So that's my other one.
And for me, I would say harmony, man. Life has so many dualities going on at one time that sometimes we become off balance because we're focused just on one thing. So whether that is my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual life, my family life, my cash flow, It's like when you focus too much on one thing, you cannot reach a level of harmony to really be able to move forward. And someone up here actually put Hebrew crossover, and I smiled a little bit because one of my daughter's middle name is Iver, which means to cross over. That is the Hebrew word for crossing over. So it's that space of giving myself permission to know that I'm going from the old me to the new me. I think sometimes people that are trying to find a new space in life, it's easy to do all this research and then pull on whatever one thing works, but you really do have to do a crossover from the old you to where you are right now. So finding harmony in all areas of your life. And those areas I tell people is your spiritual, your mental, emotional, physical, social, and your cash flow. If I have at least one thing I'm doing each day in those areas, now I'm going to have a harmony and nothing's going to fall short while I'm trying to transition and change into who I'm trying to be.
Oh, blessings. Thank you, sis. Thank you so much. So, um,
Blessings.
I love that she said the harmony, right? Me and my mom went through this yesterday in terms of breaking down a schedule. And I've had this done with me with my sons. You know, you've got to learn new words, you've got to do so much. However, we negate that there's a lot of time in each day to get a lot done. It's just we kind of squirrel ourselves away. And then we make big excuses for things that don't really require a big excuse. So I guess with that, right, ladies, for me, it's always about the mindset, creating that fit goddess mindset to where we're fit mentally, spiritually, and physically, right? So for us, that's abundance. How do we get from the scarcity mindset to abundance, which is a flow, especially women are cyclical. So we know it. It's much easier when we tap in to be like, oh, my relation is always, like my mom said, childbirth. Oh, here we go. Here come the contractions. We're much closer. It's coming. And then I'm like, oh, it's born. There's a release. There's a big period of which I feel still energetic, but not as heavy. And I know that now that the baby must be nurtured. So again, how do we get that constant state of flow to where there's less turbulence from the scarcity, right? That transition. How do we help get from the scarcity to the abundant mindset? Anybody can go.
So for me, I would say, not to cut everybody off, is to be grateful, to find your gratitude in everything, even in scarcity. The concept of scarcity being a negative thought is almost just as bad as saying stress is negative. It's not. You actually need stress to actually level up. So you need scarcity to appreciate abundance. So when scarcity is there, you're like, man, I was so grateful for that time I had all this, and now I'm grateful that there's space cleared out for me to get more. Thank you for that. Thank you in that regard. And keeping that mindset every day that you are awake, every day that you arise, and telling yourself to be grateful, just being grateful for getting up. All of that there leads to accepting, which is hard sometimes to accept scarcity. That will lead you to accept scarcity because you're so grateful for everything in general that when scarcity comes along, you're like, all right, cool. I'm grateful for this too. Let's keep it moving.
Absolutely. Who's next?
Going Queen.
I'm like, I've been trying to wait, y'all.
I should keep her. We should keep her for last anyway. Save the best for last. But go ahead.
Oh Lord, we're all best. We're all best. So to that question, what I tend to tell people is we need to stop chasing, man. That's where scarcity come from. You know, your life becomes what you focus on. I don't know about y'all, but every time I purchase a new vehicle, by the time I get home, I done seen 5 or 6 of the same vehicle because my focus is on the fact I got this brand new bad vehicle, right? So what ends up happening is when we think of scarcity or we think that I gotta keep doing or I need to get more accolades, more credentials, I need to be in this space, that space. We're in a chasing mode, but I'm learning that there is a beauty in being still. And God is my everything. So I believe in being still and knowing that He is God. I think that scarcity mindset come from the fact that we don't have that faith. And we focus so much on is something that I need to do. But listen, Psalms 139 tells us that every single day was already written out. So the thing that we're sitting here, we're chasing and we're trying to call to happen, it's not going to happen in our time, regardless. So I think if we can do more of being still, that scarcity mindset will limit a little bit. And if we think about it in this way, I tell people that money is like a bird. If you go out and you chase that bird is going to fly away. But the moment that I actually sit back and I watch that bird, before I know it, it's going to be a bunch of birds coming. And I'm the weirdo that's be like, oh, she done stole her baby daddy and things like that. But that's what cash does. That's what your abundance do. It's going to chase after you. You don't have to chase after it. So that's what I think will change that scarcity mindset.
See, I always relate cash to a woman. You know what I'm saying? You talk to her nice, real sweet, she gonna be all in your face. You know what I'm saying? She gonna stay with you. You talk to her nasty, you don't treat her well, you don't make no plans with her. Deuces, I'm out. I don't have time to deal with the fact that you don't know what to do with all this abundance. You know what I mean? What about you, Mama? How do we help them get from scarcity to abundance?
Well, I think Queen Malara hit the nail on the head with the faith. But since we are trying to associate what we're dealing with regarding the body, the physical body, and the chakras, and what's happening in here that we can't see, we already know and have determined that the root chakra is where scarcity comes from. This is you holding on to, and so we've got to remember that we were lied to, and that we were taught that we're not great, and that we have to depend on something or someone else or a job to maintain our existence, and that's not true. The food, the animals, everything was here before the jobs came. So when you recognize that you've been here all these years, well, for me, I've been here for a couple of decades, longer than most of you, but still, my heart's been beating in my chest for almost 6 decades. My lungs have been breathing. I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to think about it. It just happened. So if I realized that everything I've ever had was provided without me having to worry about it until I got a job and was making money, you know, then if that was true all that time, it should be true for the rest of my life. So I shouldn't be worried and stressed about having abundance when I know that the source of all abundance comes from the place it's always come from all this time, all these billions of years that the earth has existed. So what does my input and stress and worry have to do with it? I create the scarcity, worrying about it. And the sister said when she said faith, that was it in a nutshell. I mean,
That's what
we
I
sit
wanted.
here and
That's
waste
what I wanted to
time
point
worrying
out.
about absolutely nothing.
Tell us about faith, Sandy.
No, that's what I wanted to point out. That, like I said, both linked up into it. Like, so, mind you, I'm not particularly Christian, but the idea and concept of faith is not beyond me. It's this. It's I feel like it's no more different than manifestation. It's the thought, and it's actually no more different than the psychological or the physiological things that happens in your brain when you think. Like you have a thought, and that doesn't exist out in the world yet. It's still right here, and then you do the thing, and then it's like, oh, you created it. No, it's the faith. The faith is the thought. The thought then becomes a real thing and it becomes the life. So yeah, having the faith of it and knowing that it's not it's not real. You're putting scarcity as a thing and you don't have to make it real. You can put abundance as a thing and make that real too. So yeah, that's the power of your mind and of your ability, physiological, psychological, emotional, all of that.
Absolutely love it. So that means somewhere our faith was broken, causing what? PTSD, right? So now we are all suffering from this mental trauma of breaking our faith. I'm just recapping what we've just said, right? And now we need to recover from this mental, physiological trauma, aka PTSD. So how do we help them recover? How did you help yourselves recover?
Oof. For me, I think I learned some trust exercises. I had to start trusting in myself to really execute the things that I said I could execute. I know for real fact is that it happened with my daughter. Had to show her something. Like she started drawing when she was 5, and then she kept it up like for years and years and years and years. And then every time she thinks that she can't do something or can't learn something, I'm like, yo, no, You did this when you were 5 and it's garbage. You did something now when you were 12 and it looks like a masterpiece. You just have to be consistent. So having consistently looking at the things that worked in the past for me, what I didn't have to do, then they were effortless. And I'm like, oh, then I have the confidence to keep going forward, to break down the trauma of not believing in myself, not being confident in the things that I do. All I have to do is look back at what I did. And that's a great way to keep a little journal of that. I did this, that, and the other. And when I feel bad, look at that journal. Hey, remember when you did all these things? Well, don't worry about the next thing. You did those things. So you can do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It'll be fine. So that's helpful.
I love it. Who's next?
We'll save the best for last. I'm gonna go and say that the stress, the trauma, because I usually I have a few clients that are emotional trauma patient clients as well, and what happens is what you're saying is says Sam was absolutely correct. I agree with you 120%. This thing that it one leads right into the other in terms of it being um, a stress or an ideology of scarcity versus abundance. When we are depleted and we are psychologically, mentally, and emotionally depleted because we came into the scene, we came on the scene being depleted. We were snatched from, we were taken from, and then we were here, and more was snatched and taken from. And now we're still here in a hostile environment where things are still being snatched and taken from us. I mean, things as valuable as life itself. And so when you're in the back to the root chakra, when you're in the fight or flight um, mentality, trauma can be ongoing. And people use the word microaggressions. I don't think there's anything micro about what we're experiencing in this country as people of color. Those are major aggressions, and they are happening on a daily basis, subliminally, psychologically, physically, in every manner, so to speak. And we're constantly dealing with those types of things. So, you know, I'm just going to go with the PTSD in terms of stress trauma, but there are also other PTSDs that we're dealing with in terms of sexual or sensual traumas that we can talk about later. But just know that they exist because we live in an environment where it's constantly um, existing and being allowed to happen.
All
Man, you
right,
just
come on with the sauce.
I was gonna say you just spoke a bunch of words that were so powerful, and I wanted to take the time out to say thank you to everybody who's watching live because I see there's people that's talking about journaling as medicine and just different things. So today, what I really want to kind of like bring in when it comes to PTSD is that we really do need to have an understanding that trauma is not always this big magnified event. When people think trauma, you automatically think military combat, an accident, a random death. I'm weak because you pulling stuff up. You know, I get distracted. I'm real squirrel, y'all. You think those big um things, but it can be something as small as your mom was trying to put food on the table, but that day that you came home and you didn't like your lunch, but there was nothing else for you to eat, that could have been a trauma. It could have been the time where y'all all came together as a family and you just found out that so and so wasn't your real family member. That could be a trauma. Like we've had so many little traumas in our family that we have minimized. And then you want to talk about our trauma of our country. Yes, we can talk about slavery, but we need to talk about the welfare system. And being a social worker, I hate my history as a profession because there was this thing that was called the New Deal. So, yeah, we were free. And then they said, well, you know, I'm going to give you this government housing, but there's a catch to this government housing. There could be no man in your home. So now social workers was night workers. We came in after midnight. If you had a scent of a male, a shoe, a brush, a toothbrush, anything that said a man was here, then what they would say is you got kicked out your house. And then guess what? Now, this is when we got multiple baby mamas and things like that, because one day I can sleep with her and I'm going to go to my other girl house because the social worker already been there. They only going to come once every blue moon. So I need to make sure where I'm going to stay. So like that was a trauma in our community as well. So when it comes to this PTSD, we have so many things that we don't even know that's in play that go beyond women not being paid the same, that goes beyond African Americans not being able to get certain jobs because of how we show up. Like there's so many different traumas, but how do we get over that? Choices. Now, I want y'all to bear with me. When I say choices, this is one of the hardest things that I have to talk to my clients about, especially when it comes to PTSD, because there's certain things that we just cannot change. There are certain things that's just in the fabric of the makeup of our nation that we stay in, our culture. We're trying to heal generational traumas and everything else. But it comes down to choices. What am I going to choose to put my energy on? And I had to choose for myself that trauma was not going to be where I stay. And me being a mental health professional, I have PTSD. Suicidal ideations is where I live. Like I tell people that because I want them to know, like, you're not struggling by yourself. But every day I choose to live a certain life. Every day I choose to focus on something else. Am I going to be stuck on, well, they may not want to listen to a Black young girl that look like me that ain't even 30 yet? No, I show up and I say, they're going to listen to these words. I show up and I say, because of my knowledge, I can sit here and do certain things. So sometimes it goes down to, yes, I had this trauma, but what I'm going to do with it. You can either choose to be that 30-year-old that died, but just don't get buried until you're 70, like Les Brown says, or I'm going to be this 30-year-old that's deciding to do something with my trauma and help somebody pull through, which is what this whole entire podcast for this month is. So that's how we get through PTSD. We choose to do different. We choose to, okay, yeah, I'm going to acknowledge that's my history, but I ain't got to repeat it. I'm going to acknowledge that's my history, but I'm not going to spend all of my time being mad that that's what my history is. I'm going to actually make history today, because each one of us on this thing is history. So as I'm telling my story, I am making history and I'm deciding to live a different life so that my kids don't have to worry about being young and Black in America. No, they young Black with a gift and a purpose that they was born with. And that's what we're going to focus on. I'm not negating it. They're going to know it, but you're not going to live it.
Shit.
Can I snap more? I can't snap more.
Lord,
I'm trying to
hold on.
snap more.
Anybody got a mic drop sound?
Microphone check, 1 2 1 2.
Calm down. Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. That just happened.
Man.
That just happened. That just happened. So one of the big things, one of my biggest takeaways from that is creation, is how creation happens, right? Procreation, sexual versus sensual. We get often stigmatized, I believe, as only two characters in this world, which we have to, like you're saying, transform into something else. That's I have focused on, instead of breaking the cycle, replacing the cycle. Because if you break it, there's just a bunch of holes everywhere. And now we got this weird ass wheel wobbling around, right? As opposed to taking out the bad and putting in the good, so it still functions properly. So one, how do we get back to, or come back to, one, good sexual health, like between ourselves, between our partners, whatever that means. And then also, how do we begin to appreciate sensual wellness? Because Black women are just, women in general are so alluring, and we're supposed to be, but there's like this weird connotation where we have to like be dumbfounded by the fact that we're beautiful. And it's like, wait, how do I do both? Like, how do I look at myself in the mirror and take care of myself while simultaneously hating myself?
Not the hand gesture. Whoa.
Well, you know what I'm saying? You gotta, theater. I can't clutch his pearls. How do we do? We need to, one, as women, because to some degree, I've seen it with all of you. I know you're sexual because you have children, because you've told me stories, but that is none of my business. you being sensual is something that I feel because of your confidence, your poise, your grace, your self understanding. Now, when people lack this, and I went to a phenomenal exhibit, shout out, as she watches this, hey sis, I really loved your work at Downing Gross right now. This woman, Michelle Arts, is doing Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, where she discusses how women have an issue with self, but what we end up doing is projecting onto other women. Oh, sis, I can't stand you because you have hips and you've worked on your body and I haven't, is what it really is. But that's not what it sounds like. And then we end up seeming like cats in a bag when that's really not how it should be. So, to anyone who wants to start, how do we, again, replace and reclaim this healthy sexualness? Because ain't nothing wrong with a little bump of grind. Ain't that what the song say? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I need to be able to be feminine and alluring and poised and graceful and attractive without being over sexualized or demoralized or raped or molested or chastised. So how do we scaffold? How do we make those things back to positives?
I feel like it goes back to Ageless Wisdom Speaks first question. She said, what does divine femininity mean to each of you? And do you agree for harmony versus tolerating? And I think the thing about it is we tolerate what the world has declared as sexuality and sensuality. We tolerate those definitions. Like, we are sensual beings. Like, that's what we were created. Like, and I tell people this all the time. Like, when you change your kid's diaper, the first place their hand goes is their private area, because they know what that pleasure feels like. But what we've done is we've demonized something. We've made all of these rules and regulations surrounding femininity and our bodies and all these things that now we have elongated something that is natural and normal. So, for example, back in the day, they got married at 13 and 14 years old because God knew, the creator knew, at a certain age, they gonna want to do a little something, something. But what do? We tell people to wait until you're 40, wait until you get your degrees, wait until all your debt is paid off, and then we demonize it, and then we're wondering why masturbation is a thing and watching porn is a thing. Then we don't want to talk about it, and it's because we've elongated something that is naturally at a certain stage of your life. Like, when you are a kid, you don't know sex. So when your kid is touching, I call it a pickle sometimes with my son. For example, I'll say, Aswan, stop touching your pickle. He like, but it's funny. And he's laughing about it. And I had to think about it. He don't know what sex is. He just knows that it feels good in his little teeny hand, and let's talk about it. My daughter, I had to have a conversation with her like, hey, sweetheart, you're filling out your metabolism like your daddy, but your shape is like a brick house like your mama. So we gonna need you to figure this thing out, like really having those conversations. So I feel like at the end of the day, there has to be a harmony between what is a proper education when it comes to sex and sensuality, what is the right time to have those conversations, and us not demonizing something that is so natural. So being able to help our children understand, like, this is what a vagina is and this is what a penis is. Don't tell your kid that's a pocketbook or all those other things. So to answer your question, when it comes to like molestation and rape, is because we have literally taken away something that is so natural as a part of our bodies. So we need to get to a point where we have those conversations and educate yourself on just normal human development. There's a stage where you're going to go through the phallic stage. That means now I know what this actually is and it feels great, but don't nobody want to talk about it. So then now we wonder why kids are in preschool doing sexual acts, because ain't nobody talking about it. Like, literally, those are the things that can limit that communication, that education. And then when it comes to sexuality and sensualness, being sensual is being one with your body. That's it. But what we've made it is, if you wear a certain thing, if you do a certain thing, then now I'm making it sexual. No, I am sensual with it because this is my body. I am sensitive to the things that my body do. That's what I think sensuality is. It's not about sex. It's not about giving yourself up. It's all about, okay, I am one with me. So then when I do share myself in a sexual way, I now can dictate how far I want to go. I now can dictate what you do. And then that limits the rate, that limits the molestation, because now you don't have people that nobody talked to about what they were feeling. So now they're not going to be aggressive with someone because now I told you what it actually is. So communication and knowledge, I feel, is what bridges that gap.
I want to answer the question, but she answered the question. I can't even answer that question
You know
anymore.
how to
That's
say
all I was going to
elaborate.
say. I was going to say the same thing. To answer the other question that was said, what does divine femininity mean to me? So I femininity means to me the acceptance of all the whole aspects of feminine divine. That means both creator and destroyer. That means both nurturer and I would say aggressive or aggression, because both those things create not only not the polarity, but see
Duality.
full and developed realized person. So the idea that a woman has to be this or divine feminine has to be just this, that makes absolutely no sense. There if you look at the goddesses of the culture of our original cultures, specifically West African, they're goddesses of change and the goddesses of love. There's goddesses of agreements of feminine nurture and fertility. There's all kinds, because they all make up the diaspora or the dichotomy of femininity. Divine means all of the above. It's all one. It's all encompassed in one. It's not little pieces. It's just one. So yeah, that's what that means to me. And the question of learning how to try to bridge the gap between sexuality and sensuality is that we over here are superly oversexed or hypersexualized as a culture, and it's always been that way. And it unfortunately it's been inundated into our children. So what you said about, hey, I need to explain to you what your body is, and explaining to them physiologically and physically, so they get the purpose of not just that, but then tapping into what's Miss Rosalind's over there saying that about your chakras, and actually why that energy is there anyway. It's a creationary energy. It's not just for you to create babies, it's for you to create.
Create.
So making sure they know that that is what that energy can be used for, instead of just willy-nilly throwing it away without having any real tangible understanding of the importance of creationary energy, is why we end up in the situation we are today with hypersexualized people. So to invoke sensuality, to know the body, like she was saying, is how you invoke sensuality. Is to get in touch with your body. Men, women, everybody can be sensual. It's really how you learn to formulate and work with the machine you're in and your senses. So your senses of smell, your senses of eyes. That's where sensuality comes from, is your senses. So yeah, that's what she said.
All right, come on, Mama, bring up the rear.
I'm enjoying the comments over here. I wish I could answer to respond to all of them, but I can't type that fast. I'm sorry, but I just want to say, you uh, sis Sam just hit on it. Of course, sis Malara hit on it. Of course, you hit on it. Everybody's hitting on it about the 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 well, sensuality. First of all, we have senses. We know we have five senses, and we have other
More than
senses that
that.
are not listed. And so
Hmm.
the senses create this the sex. So it's very important in having sexual relationships to activate the senses. You want to have nice smelling things if you're in a sexual situation. You want to have nice feeling things, bears and mink
Petals
blankets
and
and all
feathers.
that. So if you guys have candles, incense, whatever, to create the
Silk.
mood, that's sensuality moving into sexuality. But then there's just sensuality. And that's just the fact that we are, like you say, sensual beings. We like touching, we like smelling, we like tasting, we like feeling. And but as far as the sexuality and the post-traumatic stress syndrome thing going on here, or the post-traumatic sexual syndrome, um, just traumatic disorder going on, we have a lot of trauma. I'm sorry, and it's ancestral and it's genetic, and DNA is a mother father. It's not gonna go away. It's there. It does not alter. It's DNA. It's in us. And we can, as individuals, recognizing what's going on, we don't want that anymore. But you can't tear that piece of our pieces of our history out and unthread the DNA to make it not happen. It did happen. It can't make it unhappen, but it's there. And because it's there, and because of how it affected our genetic memory in terms of being raped, our ancestors being raped and abused, and us knowing about it, we can feel that, believe it or not, still in our spirit, because it's spirit. It doesn't go away. It's not going to go away. And so when we're focusing on uh, this so-called hypersex, where did it come from? We're, as a culture, as a race, as ancestors of the continent, we didn't look at sex the way it's looked at here. That was taught to us. We might have been very sexual human beings, but we were not perverted about it like they are here, like it is being perverted here. We had an order, and that order respected that there was a divine feminine and there was a divine masculine. And we became part of a so-called culture or country that didn't have any respect for the divine masculine and feminine. And so here we are stuck with this broken genetic strand in a broken genetic land that has no respect or regard for humanity, whether it be male or female. And they're showing you that. So there's a whole lot that has to be done before we can get to the point where we're going to be comfortable talking about sensuality and sexuality, because this is not normal for us. This is not our flow. We don't call women hoes that have a history of being abused and raped, at will and forced, and having the babies snatched from them, and women brutalized and men broken. That's not who we were. So we can't just come over here and act like that didn't happen and okay, we're going to be okay with sex. What we're doing is ignoring what has happened to us mentally, physically, and spiritually. And when you ignore your history and act like it didn't happen, or try to, make it go away, the body, the mind, and the soul remembers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they'll do it and repeat it and repeat it. Not only will it
Yeah,
remember, it
it's
will
just
repeat.
too much damage. It's just too much damage, and it just can't be fixed overnight. It just not going to be fixed with the some sex toy. It's damage. It's
Well, here
critical damage.
I'm
I'm
gonna say
sorry.
here's the no, you're fine. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, we have to start opening up the door to our black and brown homes, because what ended up happening is, because we didn't want to talk about our history, and we're so big on trying to find what our identity is outside of slavery. We were kings and queens in Africa, and now
Yeah.
let's just pull on that. It's like, okay, we can pull on that, but where we are right now, just like you said, that spiritual, that emotional, that physical, all of that, when it came to sex, listen, what we don't understand is, even in the black and brown community, people don't want to breastfeed anymore because we don't want to talk about the history of breastfeeding, and how if their wives got pregnant, they raped us, got us pregnant, took our kids, sold our kids, just so that we can actually be wet nurses for their wives. Like, we don't want to talk about these things because we are afraid that we're going to step on people's toes. But tonight I'm going to do that just for a little bit. So at the end of the day, when it comes to sexuality in our community specifically, it has been demonized because it was taken away from us. And then the moment that we had a chance to be our own families, then we had, sorry men, you may not like this, but then we had men in our family that then did the same act that our slave masters did on them, onto their children, their nieces, their nephews, and then now we have molestation and incest so running rampant in our families. Then we made songs about it and we made it a great thing about our father being a Rolling Stone. So now you got this family on this side. You got 2, 3, 4, 5 families on that side. Most people that are older than me and my generation, they got other siblings that they can't count. Let's just say that. And we kept repeating the same thing, is that the repetition comes from not wanting to acknowledge. I feel like if we have more conversations like this and really talk about our history and talk about how we've demonized sex. Why? Because it was used as a tool of control over us, number one. And then two, you're going to repeat what you know. So we began to repeat what we knew, and then nobody wanted to talk about it because you can't get granddad in trouble because he got to go preach on Sunday. So if you tell them about granddaddy, then we're not going to be able to be a family no more. So honey girl, you better not say nothing. So then now we have other people who are stressing, and then we're not going to have a conversation with our kids. Then our kids are going out there and they're doing everything underneath the sun. I was one of those kids. I lost my virginity at 13. So listen, we didn't have those conversations. So now I am a product of 3 to 13 doing things with family members. Like it's a bunch of things that we don't want to talk about. But if we don't talk about it, then what's going to end up happening is, as much as we want to have this Me Too movement and we want to have all of these conversations and everybody want to joke about R. Kelly and Bill Cosby and all these people, listen, we joking about them, but we repeating the same things in our own family units because don't nobody want to talk about it. Don't nobody want to talk about our kids that are in preschool that are doing oral sex behind bookshelves because nobody want to talk about their sexuality and how they feel. But they're seeing people do it. And then we use it as a tool to weaponize certain things because we're repeating patterns that don't nobody want to talk about. So how do we reclaim our sexuality? Talk about it. I see so many comments and I love y'all that talks about don't talk about it in the school system. Why not? Because parents ain't talking about it. So how your kids supposed to know the do's and don'ts if ain't nobody want to talk about it because we want to make sure that they Christian enough and save their virginity till they 30 years old. Listen, that don't work. I got a promise ring at 13 and guess what? I lost that bad boy 6 months later because nobody talked to me about what it was. So we need to do so much more on really educating ourselves on our history so that we can stop it. History going to continue until you actually acknowledge it. It doesn't mean I got to accept it and now I want to say, oh, this is great. And no, I'm not going to wear it as a badge of honor, but I'm going to acknowledge it so that my kids don't have to go through the same thing, so that I don't have to go through the same things. Because I was a victim of so many of that stuff that people don't want to talk about. And I love this comment, religion versus humanity. Religion has stopped us from being human. I love my God. I love my Christian folks. I love church. But our religion has stopped us from having a human experience because we don't want to talk about those things that we actually go through on a day-to-day basis. And we wonder why our kids are out here doing things to each other they shouldn't do. So it goes down to acknowledgement.
If I could best come in for 1 second, because I know that the religion is, I know the religion that was given to us is killing us. You're right, but the concept of religion or religious or ritualistic is the same word root. Is that you are doing something in a way that is not only giving you power, but is a form of discipline and showing you how to live culturally in the world. So in that concept, we need to be able to teach our children that their body is temples. Their bodies are temples, and boys specifically and girls, because boys are unfortunately are shown that they need to be man whores, and it really adds on to the body count, adds on to the disparity of viewing women, on how to view women, on even how to be around a woman. So teaching the concept of being a temple, that this thing that you're in is not only is creationary and can create things and create things for you, but it is a temple for which you, the spirit, are in. And therefore, what kind of temple do you want? You want a temple that's trashy and got everybody in it and everybody's been around and they then messed up your whole spot? Or do you want something that's a little hard to get into? You gotta go to the initiation. You gotta go to all the rigorous times to be in this temple because it is so vast and beautiful, and you take so good care of it. that's the concept that I think is being lost when told about sexuality is, what are you doing with the body? You are not the body, but what are you doing with the body that it was given to you? So
Sheesh. Listen, yo. Oh my goodness. So what I heard, I got to recap just in case nobody caught that because y'all dropped a whole lot of jewels and I don't know how much they got. You know what I'm saying? So real quick, the biggest thing I heard in everything is education and communication. Am I right? And what I heard is that the two things that we got like 6 minutes left. So ladies, we're going to push these two together because they really go together, right? Education, communication, and child rearing, and what is beautiful. How can these two things, with femininity as the great teachers of the world, because that's what we are. And for those that don't know, we start teaching now, immediately. Everything we're doing, everything I'm doing right in this moment is teaching my unborn children how to behave in this world. So, with that being said, that goes from what I eat to what I drink to what I read to who I talk to, how y'all talk to me, where I go, right? So, again, really quickly, child rearing and what is beautiful, what can we do to help create that abundance mindset? Because I think in teaching a discipline to a child, then you inherently begin to become disciplined. So, how can we scaffold and help those who don't know teach those who really don't know so that we can all learn and grow at our own pace together?
I say start with yourself on that end for like child rearing when you know you've come up at finding the curiosity of children, and then showing them as you show yourself what is beautiful. Because for a long time we didn't know, or what we were told wasn't who we are. So describing the feminine and being having different, like not just one archetype, having different archetypes. So yes, this is beautiful because she has such and such going on, or this is beautiful because her eyes are really beautiful, or her hair has to be so beautiful. The aspects of a person that make them beautiful, as well as the content of the character, that's what can be shown while we're rearing our children. What is beautiful to them is not just simply the outside characteristics of an individual. That can fucking change. Language, sorry, that can change. But not so much the content of the character, and then your ability to pick out what is beautiful is based upon what you can find beautiful in yourself. So having those mirror conversations with your children, standing in front of the mirror, like, hey, what do you find beautiful about yourself, male or female? What do you find beautiful about this person or that person? And what do you find beautiful about your friends, people you know? And those things can elevate what beautiful is. It is not just this outward appearance. It's all encompassing.
Go on, sis.
Okay, so I I would say for me when it comes to child rearing, this has been the most difficult task that I have received in my life. Because I do know what the trauma looks like, especially when it comes to this topic specifically. So for me, I had to learn to not parent from my trauma self. Because again, I was exposed to sexual things at 3 years old. And then I was sexually assaulted at 16 and again on a job. So for me, the way that I parent at first was from a trauma space because I lost two children before my oldest, and then I almost died with my youngest. So that helicopter mom, like, let me, do all these things. But what I had to learn was number one, give myself grace and realize that I can only give what I got. Wayne Dyer says, if I need 12 oranges and I ain't got it, I got to go to the store and get it. And what I did not have was self love. What I did not have was understanding my own beauty. So I had to go on my own journey of finding out how I am beautiful and knowing how to define that the way my creator defining it when he created me. So it took me to go to therapy. It took me to go to coaching and then also trying to use my village around me and being honest with my struggles with parenting to be able to really see my children. And then the second thing was just communication. I tell my children all the time how beautiful they are. I'm very mindful with my words. So if I'm in a space and I'm emotionally charged, I will not discipline. I will not say anything. I am always in a space of, maybe I need to wait before I say something, because sometimes we will kill our kids' beauty by disciplining them in the heat of our emotions. So that for me is what I try to do, is trying to take a step back. And then also number 3, being an example with my life. Every event that I do is focused on self-love. So for example, and many people may be like, for real. So like in March, I'm doing a women's project, and I'm letting my daughter see it. I want her to see women who turn their pain into purpose. And then on the 26th, I'm doing a self-love boudoir photo shoot. My daughter is 6. Guess what she's going to see? That boudoir photo shoot. Why? Because I want you to know that you're beautiful on the outside. I want you to know that this is not sexual and sex. This is about you loving the creation of who you are and being able to look in the mirror and love your curves, love everything about you. Like, that's what I do. And that's how I make sure that they know that they're beautiful. It's by how I live my life, how I communicate with other queens, how I communicate with other kings, and my conversation and words that I choose. There is life and death in my tongue, and I do that with my kids as well.
All right, wrap it up, Mom. Tell me.
It's a whole lot left. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So they said everything, but I will say, as always, I would say start, like Sis said, with how when you're rearing your children, you teach them to love themselves from the inside out. And one of the things that you want to do, and this is for anybody, teach your children their history, teach them their family, let them see pictures of their elders and ancestors, show them what they look like, show them what they're working with. This is, you might look like this when you get old. You better take good care of yourself. We got uh these predispositions to these diseases in our family. So you got to take care of yourself here. Um, talk to your children, like Sis said, with love. If you can't speak in a tone of love, just table it for another time. Don't speak to them out of anger and whatnot, because they're very, very, very fragile. And so when you're saying what is beautiful, you're telling them what's beautiful. You are telling them where to look for beauty within themselves and their own family, from their history into their future. This is what you are. This is where you came from. And this, if you do right, this is where you're going to go. And I'll leave it at that.
I love it. So we are at time, right? I will say, Mama, I will replace one word. I wouldn't say that they're fragile. I would say that they're impressionable,
I
right?
love that even better. Thank you.
And we want to leave a good impression on the children. So, like leaving a good impression, since we're at the end of the show, ladies, real quick, if you will start, Sam, and then Myra, then my mom, just tell me where we can find you real quick, and then I'll pull Brother Seiko in to sign out, yeah?
Okay. You can find me online at Des Kalima on Instagram. You can also find me on Golden Flows of Funkhauser _ Golden Flows of Funkhauser for any dance tutorials just to get your body moving. And I will be holding a Welsh workshop soon in July with Medi Mommy. So you can look for me there. Thank you.
Okay, so you can find me at Malara Transforms on Instagram. And then listen, y'all, go to my YouTube channel, okay? Because you're not going to miss out. We're doing a women's project. So that's Transforming with Malara. And this entire month, we're talking about how her story is making history. And I am claiming that by the end of this project, y'all, I'm going to get to 1,000 subscribers. So that's what we're going to claim today. And on the 26th, again, I'm having that self-love photo shoot. It is boudoir in nature, but I want for people to know that your body is beautiful. And yes, we can love ourselves from the inside out, but it's time for us to also love the creation of our outside. So that's where you can find me at.
All righty. And I am Rosalind Collins. I am a life coach with Alchemic Aura. That's the name of my company, Alchemic Aura. And I will put I guess you can put the website up there, alchemicaura.com. I'm a life coach, reflexologist, personal trainer, aromatherapist, no, some more stuff, but I'll just stop for there. But yeah, well, you can find us up on Instagram and Facebook at Alchemic Aura. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. And I've been your host, Joe. This has been the Goddess Tribe Takeover. We're not done yet, right? We still have 2 more weeks left in March to celebrate Women's History Month. Hopefully, some of these ladies will be back with me again to talk about more stuff. Again, there's so much to say, and we only got about an hour. So if you're looking for me, find me anywhere. Fanbase, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Linktree, Snapchat, TikTok at Big Goddess Tribe. And I'd love to see you. I'd love to work with you guys mentally, whether it's coaching or physically. We really, really, really want to do whatever we can to be as helpful as we can to you to scaffold. You know what I'm saying? We all each reach back to one another and help each other grow. So I hope y'all will tune in with us next week. Ladies, I got to sign out like this. To all the ladies in the place with style and grace, say peace.
Peace.
I ain't gonna say peace.
Hey.
Thank you, everybody.